I had the house to myself for the weekend, while my parents were visiting relatives. At 17, I was thrilled at the prospect of having some time alone. Friday night, I invited a couple of friends over, and we spent the night watching movies and eating junk food. By midnight, they had left, and I was ready to settle into bed. As I was getting ready to sleep, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was an unknown number. The message read, "Are you alone?" I figured it was a prank, probably one of my friends messing with me, so I replied, "Very funny, who is this?" I waited a few minutes, but there was no response. Shrugging it off, I set my phone on the nightstand and climbed into bed. I was just starting to drift off when I heard the faint sound of a phone ringing. It wasn't my ringtone, but it was close enough to make me sit up and listen. The ringing was coming from downstairs. My heart started to race. I tiptoed down the stairs, the sound growing louder. It was coming from the kitchen. As I approached, I saw my house phone's handset sitting on the counter, the screen lit up with an incoming call. I answered it, my voice shaking. "Hello?" Silence. Then, a raspy voice whispered, "Are you alone?" My blood ran cold. I slammed the phone down and ran back to my room, locking the door behind me. I grabbed my cell phone and called my best friend Alex. "Someone's in the house," I whispered frantically. Alex tried to calm me down, suggesting it might be a prank, but I was too scared to think straight. I decided to call the police. The operator assured me that officers were on their way and told me to stay put and keep quiet. I sat on my bed, clutching my phone, listening for any sound. The house was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes every creak and groan feel amplified. I thought I heard footsteps, but it could have been my imagination. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, I heard a knock at the door and the muffled announcement, "Police." I rushed downstairs and let them in. They searched the house thoroughly, but found no one. The front and back doors were locked, and there were no signs of forced entry. The police reassured me that it was probably a prank call, maybe someone who had dialed the wrong number and left. I felt a bit better, but still on edge. I decided to sleep in the living room with all the lights on, the house phone unplugged. Around 3 a.m., just as I was starting to doze off, my cell phone buzzed again. It was the same unknown number. This time, the message read, "I'm still here." Panic surged through me. I called Alex back, who insisted on coming over. He stayed with me for the rest of the night, but we didn't sleep. In the morning, I called my parents and told them everything. They cut their trip short and came home immediately. For weeks, I was jumpy and paranoid, constantly looking over my shoulder. We never found out who sent those messages or made those calls. I changed my phone number and got a new house phone, but the fear lingered. I still wonder if it really was just a prank, or if someone had been watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. It was a Saturday night, and my parents had gone to a concert, leaving me alone for the weekend. At 16, I relished these rare moments of solitude. I ordered Chinese takeout, set up my favorite movie, and sprawled out on the couch, ready for a night of relaxation. The movie was halfway through when I heard a noise coming from the upstairs. It sounded like something had fallen. I paused the movie, listening intently. The house was quiet again, so I shrugged it off, thinking it was just the old house settling. Not long after, I heard another noise, this time more distinct. A creaking floorboard, like someone was walking around. My heartbeat quickened. I grabbed my phone and headed cautiously up the stairs, turning on all the lights as I went. I reached my bedroom and found nothing out of place. I checked the other rooms, but everything was as it should be. Telling myself I was just being paranoid, I went back downstairs, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over me. Back on the couch, I resumed my movie, but I couldn't concentrate. Every creak and groan of the house set me on edge. Then, I heard it again, the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from upstairs. This time, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the kitchen knife and called my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, who lived right next door. She answered on the second ring, and I quickly explained what was happening. "Stay where you are, dear. I'm coming over," she said, her voice steady and reassuring. While I waited, I kept my eyes fixed on the staircase, the knife clutched tightly in my hand. The footsteps had stopped, but the house felt charged with an ominous energy, like someone was waiting in the shadows. Mrs. Thompson arrived quickly, and together we searched the house. We checked every room, every closet, even the attic, but found no one. "It must have been your imagination," she said gently, though I could tell she was just as unsettled as I was. She stayed with me until my parents got home, and I told them what had happened. They dismissed it as nerves, blaming it on the scary movies I loved to watch. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been in the house with me, watching me. A few days later, while cleaning my room, I found something that confirmed my worst fears. Tucked under my bed was a small black notebook. I opened it and felt a chill run down my spine. Inside were detailed notes about my daily routine, what time I left for school, when I came home, even what I wore. The entry stopped on the night I heard the footsteps. I showed the notebook to my parents and the police. They conducted a thorough investigation but found no leads. The intruder had been meticulous, leaving no evidence behind. We installed a new security system, and for months, I couldn't be alone in the house without feeling a lingering sense of dread. Every noise, every creak in the night set my heart racing. The incident changed me. I became more cautious, more aware of my surroundings. I never found out who had been watching me or why, but the memory of that night still haunts me to this day. I had been looking forward to a night alone for weeks. My parents were going out of town for a wedding, and I convinced them that at 17, I was old enough to stay at home by myself. I had plans for a movie marathon, junk food, and a late-night gaming session. It started as a perfect evening. After saying goodbye to my parents, I ordered a pizza, turned on my favorite horror movies, and settled into the couch. The house felt eerily quiet, without the usual background noise of my family, but I enjoyed the solitude. Around 11 p.m., the wind picked up, making the old house creak and groan. I paused the movie and checked that all the doors and windows were locked, feeling a bit uneasy. Satisfied, I resumed my movie, trying to shake off the growing sense of unease. As I was halfway through my second movie, I heard a faint tapping sound. I muted the TV and listened. The tapping continued, rhythmic and deliberate. It seemed to be coming from the back door. My heart began to race. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, making my way cautiously to the kitchen. The tapping grew louder as I approached the door. Taking a deep breath, I shone the light through the window but saw nothing unusual. The door was locked and the porch light revealed an empty backyard. Convinced it was just the wind or a tree branch, I returned to the living room, feeling foolish for getting scared. I resumed the movie, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. About an hour later, I heard the sound again, but this time it was coming from upstairs. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving from room to room. My blood ran cold. I knew I was alone in the house, but the footsteps were unmistakable. I dialed my best friend Sam for reassurance. "Hey Sam, I think someone might be in the house," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Are you sure? Did you check the doors and windows?" Sam asked, sounding concerned. "Yeah, everything's locked, but I can hear footsteps upstairs." "Okay, stay on the phone with me. I'm coming over," Sam said. He lived only a few blocks away, but those minutes felt like an eternity. As I waited for Sam, the footsteps continued, moving to the top of the stairs. I could see the shadow of feet under the doorframe, and I froze. I held my breath, praying that it was just my imagination. Then, the footsteps stopped, and the door handle began to turn slowly. My heart pounded in my chest as the door creaked open, revealing an empty hallway. There was no one there. Sam arrived a few minutes later, and we searched the house from top to bottom, but we found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no one hiding in closets or under beds. It was as if the footsteps and the turning door handle had never happened. Sam stayed over, and we spent the rest of the night in the living room, waiting for morning to arrive. We didn't get that much sleep that night, paranoid that whoever was in the house with me earlier that night might come back. In the morning, I told my parents what had happened, but they chalked it up to my imagination and horror movies. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something had been in the house with me that night. Even now, when I'm alone at night, I can't help but remember that eerie experience, the feeling of being watched, the slow footsteps, and the turning door handle. It's a memory that haunts me to this day, a reminder that sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't explain.